I never imagined my sister would slap me so hard that the entire Los Angeles terminal went silent. 1 second I was checking our boarding time, and the next her hand cracked across my face sharp enough to turn 200 heads. Phones lifted, people stared, and before I could even breathe, my parents rushed in not to help me but to blame me. Again. They had no idea I was the one who paid for the entire Hawaii trip, or that 5 minutes later I'd make a decision that would leave every passenger speechless and my family stranded. My name is Rose Morrison, and for most of my life, people have described me as the responsible one, the steady daughter, the calm older sister, the girl who never argues, never complains, never causes trouble. It's funny how a reputation can trap you, how it can turn into a role you don't remember choosing, but everyone expects you to play forever. Growing up in our house in Los Angeles, my sister Jessica was the spark-loud, emotional, dramatic, in a way my parents found charming. I was the quiet one, the fixer. If Jessica cried, I comforted her. If she messed up, I covered. If my parents needed something done, they didn't even ask her. They turned straight to me. I told myself it was love, responsibility, family. But somewhere around year 28 of being the dependable daughter, the cost started showing. I work in marketing analytics for a tech company, the kind of job where you spend more time with spreadsheets than people. It pays well enough that when the Hawaii idea came up, covering the whole trip didn't feel like a burden. It felt normal, expected even. I told myself it was a gift. Something nice to do for my parents who hadn't traveled in years. Something generous for Jessica, who said she needed a break from her stressful life of switching jobs every few months and posting inspirational quotes online. 5 weeks ago at family dinner, Jessica stood up with a champagne glass and announced she was treating everyone to Hawaii. My parents' faces lit up like Christmas morning. My mom covered her mouth in disbelief. My dad bragged instantly, telling her how proud he was. Jessica looked at me across the table, smiled, and mouthed "thank you," like a private joke, and I laughed it off, because that's what I do. I kept planning, paying, organizing the hotel, the car, the excursions, the flights, premium seats, because Dad's back hurt adjoining rooms because Jessica needed her space. I told myself it didn't matter if nobody knew. I told myself family doesn't need credit. But the truth is, something inside me tightened a little each time Jessica accepted praise for something she didn't do. Each time my parents brushed off my contributions like they were automatic. Each time Jessica made a snide comment about me being too uptight or too serious while I carried every adult responsibility in the family. Still, I hoped this trip would feel different. Maybe being away together, maybe the ocean breeze, maybe a week outside of our routine would soften the edges. Maybe we could actually enjoy something as a family. That's what I was thinking the morning we left, standing in the terminal, coffee in hand, boarding pass pulled up on my phone. That maybe finally this trip would be the break we all needed. I was wrong. So wrong that within minutes, everything I believed about my family shattered. The moment Jessica's hand hit my face, the sound cracked through the airport like a dropped tray. For a second, everything inside me went quiet, even the part of me that always tried to understand her. My cheek throbbed, but what hurt more was watching my parents sprint toward us with that familiar mix of panic and irritation aimed squarely at me. "What did you do to her, Rose?" my dad snapped before even looking at my face. I opened my mouth, but Jessica beat me to it. She buried her face in Mom's shoulder voice, trembling on cue. "She's been ruining the trip all week. I can't take it anymore." The lie slid out so smoothly it barely surprised me. What surprised me was how quickly my parents accepted it again. Mom stroked Jessica's hair, glaring at me over her shoulder. "Why can't you just let your sister enjoy herself?" There it was, the script we'd been performing since childhood, and standing there in Terminal 4, surrounded by strangers recording us, all the old memories started flooding in, heavy, humiliating, undeniable. The graduation party. Jessica had barely passed high school, and she'd wanted a big celebration just like everyone else. Our parents didn't have the money, so I quietly paid for the cake, the decorations, the backyard tent. $2,000. Jessica made a whole speech thanking Mom and Dad for everything they did. Everyone applauded. Mom teared up. Dad hugged her. I stood by the grill holding a tray of burgers, smiling like it didn't matter. The apartment. 2 years later, she got approved for a cute place near downtown because I co-signed. She walked through the empty living room, twirling her keys, telling Instagram how proud she was to be finally independent. She never mentioned the only reason her application went through was because my credit carried her. The engagement. She got engaged briefly, 4 unforgettable months to a guy who loved her drama, until he didn't. She called me crying about the ring she wanted but couldn't afford. I lent her $5,000. She bought the ring, posted it online with a Bible quote, and when the relationship fell apart, she kept it. Never paid me back, never even brought it up. And the gifts. Every birthday, every holiday, I bought presents from both of us because she claimed she was broke or overwhelmed or busy. For years, Mom believed Jessica was better at picking gifts than I was. But the flashback that stung the most, that family dinner 5 weeks ago. Jessica clinked her glass, smiled sweetly and said, "I'm treating us to Hawaii. We leave in June. All expenses paid." Mom gasped. Dad told her she was amazing. Jessica soaked in the praise like sunlight, and then she looked at me directly and mouthed thank you with that tiny smirk she thought nobody ever caught. I remembered the warmth rising in my chest, not from pride, but from something tighter, something heavy, something that felt like resentment, even though I hated admitting it. Now here we were in the middle of a packed airport replaying the same scene for the 1,000th time. Jessica plays the victim. My parents defend her, and I'm the villain by default. "Apologize," Dad said, stepping between us like a referee. "Do it properly." My cheeks still throbbed, but I swallowed. I always swallowed. I didn't do anything. I whispered, "Rose." His voice dropped to that low, disappointed tone he'd used on me my entire life. "You made your sister cry. Fix it." I looked at Jessica mascara, perfectly streaked like she'd practiced, and something inside me shifted. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, something colder, a realization. Nothing I'd done for 28 years had ever balanced the scale. Not the trips, not the money, not the favors, not the silence. And in that moment, standing alone in a crowd of 200 strangers, I understood one thing with absolute clarity. If I kept playing the role they wrote for me, I would lose myself completely. For a moment after my dad's command, "Fix it," I just stood there, feeling the heat from Jessica's slap radiate across my cheek. The sting was sharp, but it wasn't what made my eyes blur. It was the realization that after everything I'd done, every sacrifice, every quiet act of love, nothing had changed. Not one bit. The terminal felt too loud suddenly, the rolling suitcases, the coffee machines, hissing the airport announcements echoing overhead. People were still looking, some pretending not to, some whispering behind their phones. A TSA officer glanced over like he wasn't sure whether to intervene. I took a breath. It went in shaky. Came out worse. "I need a minute," I murmured. Dad gestured dismissively. "Fine, but don't wander off. Boarding is soon." Jessica sniffed dramatically in Mom's arms. "Just keep her away from me. Keep me away. Like I was the problem. Like I was the danger." I turned and walked toward the restrooms, not quickly, not dramatically, but slowly, like someone trying to steady herself after a blow she never saw coming. My hands were trembling. I pressed one to my cheek. It burned, not from the slap, but from humiliation. I reached a quiet corner near the vending machines, leaned against the cold tile wall, and closed my eyes. And that's when clarity began to cut through the fog. I remembered Jessica's smirk at the dinner table when she claimed the Hawaii trip as her own. I remembered Mom's proud tears. I remembered Dad telling friends that Jessica had finally gotten her life together. I remembered all the years I'd held everything together while being treated like an afterthought. And then I remembered something else. I was the one who paid. Every flight, every room, every reservation, every bill. Not Jessica, not my parents, me. My eyes opened. The tremble in my hands stopped. Just like that. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. The confirmation for the flights was right there, my name, my card, my payments, then the hotel, the rental car, the activities, the bills, all mine, all under my account. And an idea, quiet, simple, perfectly legal, slipped into my mind. A boundary, not revenge. A line I should have drawn years ago. I tapped the airline app and pulled up our reservation code. 4 seats, 4 names, 1 payer. My heart was still pounding, but the rhythm had changed. It wasn't panic anymore. It was control. I stepped farther into the corner, away from the traffic of passengers, and hit the call button. A calm voice answered, "How can I help you today?" And with a steady breath, I said, "I need to make a change to a reservation. No rage, no shouting, no theatrics. Just a choice to stop funding the people who refuse to see me." As the agent pulled up the tickets, I glanced toward the distant gate. My family was sitting together, unified, laughing lightly now that their storm had passed. Jessica was scrolling her phone, probably checking her lipstick. My parents looked relieved that the problem had stepped away. They had no idea that for the first time in my life, I wasn't coming back to them in pieces. I wasn't coming back to apologize. I wasn't coming back to keep the peace. I was coming back as someone they'd never seen before, someone who finally understood her worth. The airline agent placed me on a brief hold, soft instrumental music playing through my earbuds. I stood there in that quiet corner, the cold tile pressing into my back, feeling my heartbeat settle into something steady, purposeful. I'd never felt this calm in a moment like this, not when Jessica cried her way out of consequences, not when my parents scolded me for things I didn't do, not when I paid bills that weren't mine. For once, the silence wasn't suffocating. It was liberating. The agent came back. "All right, I have your reservation pulled up. 4 passengers to Honolulu. How can I help you?" I swallowed, but my voice didn't shake. "I'd like to cancel 3 of the tickets." There was a brief pause. 3 tickets, yes. Keep only the one under Rose Morrison. Another pause, this time longer. "Understood. There will be cancellation fees, but the travel credit will go back to your account since the payment originated from you." "Perfect," I said. "Go ahead." And with a series of clicks on her end just like that, the balance of power in my family shifted for the first time in 28 years. When the cancellation confirmation hit my inbox, I stared at it for a moment. 3 names gone. 3 people who had used my silence as permission for far too long. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was done. Next, I opened the hotel reservation in the app. 2 adjoining ocean view rooms. 4 guests, my credit card. I tapped the number and spoke to a cheerful woman who introduced herself with a warm, island-accented lilt. "How may I assist you today, Ms. Morrison? I'd like to modify my reservation," I said. "Change it to 1 room, 1 guest." She made the adjustments, offered me a refund for the difference, told me she hoped I'd enjoy my stay. Then came the rental car, booking downgrading from the roomy SUV my dad insisted on to a compact. A solo vacation car. The kind you don't need to justify to anyone. Every call left me lighter. Every refund felt like a piece of myself returning. By the time I finished, I no longer felt like the girl who had been slapped in an airport. I felt like someone I hadn't seen in years, Rose Morrison, the adult with control over her life. I slipped my phone into my bag and made the long walk back toward Gate 76. The airport felt different now. Not hostile, not overwhelming, just neutral. Like the world wasn't tilting against me anymore. When I approached the seating area, my family hadn't noticed me yet. Jessica was laughing at something on her phone, Mom was digging through her purse, and Dad was reading the news on his tablet. They looked relaxed, at peace, as if 10 minutes earlier they hadn't watched their eldest daughter get hit and blamed her for it. I stepped into their line of vision and said, "I'm heading to my gate now." Mom looked up confused. "What? This is your gate." "Not anymore." Jessica narrowed her eyes. "What are you talking about?" I looked directly at her. "You're not going to Hawaii." Jessica laughed a sharp, disbelieving sound. "What are you talking about, Rose? Stop being dramatic." I lifted my phone, turning the screen toward them. "I canceled your tickets. All 3. The silence that followed was a vacuum, sudden heavy, sucking the air out of the moment. Dad stood up. "You what?" Jessica snatched the phone from my hand, reading the cancellation confirmation like it was written in another language. No, this isn't... Why would you do this?" "I booked this trip." "You didn't," I said quietly. "I did, every part of it." Mom stood too, her voice trembling. "Rose, this isn't funny." "It's not a joke," I replied. "Check with the airline if you don't believe me." Dad didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone and dialed his voice firm as he repeated the confirmation code. Jessica hovered next to him, shaking her head, muttering, "She's lying. She's lying." But when the agent on speaker confirmed only one remaining passenger, me, Jessica's face fell. Dad lowered the phone slowly. "How could you do this? How could you?" I asked back, my voice steady. "How many times have you watched her lie and watched me take the blame? How many times have you praised her for things I paid for? How many times have you asked me to stay quiet to keep the peace?" "No," Mom said, stepping closer. "We didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I said. "You believed her without question. You didn't even look at my face after she hit me. You just took her side because that's what you always do." Jessica's voice cracked, the performance gone. "Rose, please." "I didn't mean you meant every part of it," I said. "And I meant this." I showed them the hotel refund, the rental modification, the tour cancellations, every piece of their trip dissolving one confirmation at a time. Dad's face went red. "You think this makes you the hero?" "No," I answered. "It makes me free." Mom touched my arm, tears gathering. "We can fix this. Please don't leave us here. We don't have the money for new tickets." I met her eyes. "I know. That's why I paid in the first place." Jessica grabbed my wrist, her voice shaking. "I'm sorry, Rose. I shouldn't have slapped you. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking." I gently pulled my arm back. "You're 26, Jessica. When do you start thinking?" There was nothing cruel in my tone. No malice, just truth. Truth she had avoided for years. The boarding announcement chimed overhead, now boarding Group A for Honolulu. My group. Dad stepped in front of me. "If you walk through that gate, don't expect to come back." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I didn't shrink, didn't flinch, didn't fold. "I'm not the one who left," I said softly. "You did. A long time ago." I stepped around him. No one stopped me this time. The gate agent scanned my ticket, gave me a sympathetic look, and quietly said, "Rough day." I smiled faintly. Getting better. Walking down the jet bridge, I felt the weight lift from my chest with every step. When I reached my seat, premium window, extra legroom, the sun was slanting through the glass in golden stripes. As the plane pushed back, I glanced out the window one last time. Through the glass of the terminal, I saw my family, Jessica, pacing in panic. Mom crying into her hands, Dad arguing with a gate agent like he could force the world back into the shape he wanted. They looked lost, like actors who suddenly forgot their lines when the script changed. What happened next in my life really did shock everyone. Hawaii felt different the moment I stepped onto the balcony of my room. The ocean was a deep, endless blue, the kind that makes you feel both small and protected at the same time. I let the breeze hit my face, the same cheek Jessica slapped hours earlier, and for the first time in years, it didn't sting. I spent the next few days snorkeling, hiking, eating alone without apology. My phone buzzed, non-stop calls, apologies, anger, confusion, but I silenced all of it. On the flight home, I finally opened the letter my parents mailed to my apartment. They admitted everything, the favoritism, the blind spots, the years of taking me for granted. They apologized. Honestly. I folded the letter gently and placed it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to respond. But for once, the choice was entirely mine. I've learned that peace doesn't come from keeping quiet, it comes from finally choosing yourselves. My family may or may not change, but I'm no longer carrying the weight of their choices. Setting a boundary wasn't cruel, it was survival. If this story feels familiar, you're not alone. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. And if you want more true family stories like this, hit subscribe so you never miss the next one.